Rain lashed against the window pane, mimicking the tempest raging within her, each raindrop a tear she couldn't cry. Her reflection, a faded ghost in the glass, stared back with haunted eyes. The remnants of a life built on love and trust lay shattered around her, broken by her own hand. How could she have been so careless, so reckless with a heart so precious? The air hung heavy with the scent of betrayal, a suffocating reminder of her transgression. Memories once cherished and bright now flickered like dying embers, each spark a painful reminder of what she had destroyed. The life she had envisioned, the future they had planned, now lay in ruins, victims of her infidelity. Her hand trembled as she reached for a framed photograph on the bedside table. It depicted a time of pure joy, a time when their love was new and untainted. His eyes, filled with an adoration that pierced her soul, now seemed to accuse, to question her every action. Could she ever forgive herself? Could he ever forgive her? The questions echoed through the hollow chambers of her heart, each reverberation amplifying the weight of her guilt. The storm outside raged on, mirroring the chaotic symphony of regret and remorse that consumed her. She was adrift in a sea of her own making, the shores of redemption nowhere in sight. Their story began like a whisper, a chance encounter at a crowded bookstore. He had reached for the same volume of poetry, their fingers brushing. In that instant, a spark ignited, a connection forged in the shared love of verse and rhyme. She, a budding writer, drawn to his quiet intensity and passion for the written word. He, an architect, captivated by her quick wit and the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of her dreams. Their courtship was a tapestry woven from stolen glances, whispered secrets and shared laughter. They explored hidden cafes, wandered hand in hand through art galleries, and spent countless hours under the starlit sky, sharing their hopes and fears. He was her confidant, her rock, the one person who truly understood the labyrinth of her soul. Their love story culminated in a breathtaking ceremony on a cliff overlooking the ocean. They vowed to love and cherish each other, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Her heart soared as she whispered those sacred vows, believing with every fiber of her being that their love would stand the test of time. As the years unfolded, their bond deepened, their lives intertwined like the roots of two ancient trees. They built a home, a sanctuary filled with warmth, laughter, and the comforting rhythm of their shared life. She poured her heart into her writing, her words often inspired by the depth of their love. He designed breathtaking structures, each one a testament to the solidity of their bond. It started subtly, an unexpected connection at a work conference. He was a colleague from another branch, charming, charismatic, and undeniably attractive. Their initial interactions were purely professional, but as the days turned into weeks, a spark ignited, a dangerous flicker of attraction that neither of them anticipated. He was everything her husband wasn't, impulsive, spontaneous, and fueled by a restless energy that both intrigued and excited her. He challenged her perspectives, drew her out of her comfort zone, and awakened a dormant part of her that craved excitement and novelty. Their conversations, once centered around work, gradually shifted to more personal topics. They discovered shared interests, a mutual love for old movies and vintage jazz. He listened intently as she spoke of her writing, her dreams, and the subtle frustrations that had begun to creep into her otherwise idyllic marriage. She found herself drawn to him, captivated by his charm and the intoxicating feeling of being desired. He made her feel alive, seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. The guilt gnawed at her conscience, a persistent reminder of her vows and the love she was betraying. Yet, she couldn't deny the allure of this forbidden attraction, the intoxicating escape it offered from the predictability of her life. The foundation of her marriage, once unshakable, began to tremble under the weight of her secret. The easy banter with her husband, the shared jokes and intimate moments were slowly replaced by a strained silence, a growing chasm that neither knew how to bridge. She found herself making excuses to avoid his calls, her mind preoccupied with thoughts of the other man. The guilt intensified, a venomous serpent coiling around her heart, squeezing the joy from her life. Sleep became an elusive escape, haunted by dreams of discovery and the heart-wrenching image of her husband's face, etched with pain and betrayal. She tried to focus on the good, on the life she had built with her husband, the love they had shared. But the memories, once comforting, now served as painful reminders of her infidelity. She was trapped in a web of her own making, each lie a silken thread binding her tighter to the consequences of her actions. The joy had drained from her writing, her words now laced with a subtle undercurrent of despair. The characters on the page, once vibrant and full of life, now seemed to mirror her own internal struggle, torn between love and loyalty, desire and duty. Their affair was a tapestry of stolen moments, clandestine encounters woven into the fabric of their everyday lives. A lingering touch at the office coffee machine, a shared glance across a crowded room, each interaction fueled by a dangerous mix of desire and guilt. They created a world of their own, a secret garden where the rules of reality were suspended, and the only thing that mattered was the intoxicating rush of their forbidden love. But with each stolen kiss, each whispered promise, the weight of her betrayal grew heavier. The laughter and lightheartedness that had initially characterized their encounters were slowly replaced by a pervasive sense of unease. The guilt, once a dull ache, now throbbed with an intensity that threatened to consume her. She found herself withdrawing from friends and family, the effort of maintaining her facade becoming increasingly burdensome. Her once vibrant spirit dimmed, her eyes reflecting the turmoil that raged within her. She was a prisoner in her own life, the bars of her gilded cage forged from deceit and the fear of discovery. The joy that had once painted her world in vibrant hues now appeared muted, as if a thick fog had descended, obscuring the beauty that surrounded her. The world seemed to move in slow motion, each tick of the clock a hammer blow to her conscience, reminding her of the precious time she was wasting, the life she was slowly destroying. Her carefully constructed facade began to crumble, the cracks widening with each passing day. Her husband, his senses attuned to the subtle shifts in her behavior, grew increasingly suspicious. The unanswered calls, the distant gaze, the flimsy excuses for her lack of intimacy, all pointed to a truth he was desperate to deny. He confronted her, his voice a mixture of hurt and accusation. She denied everything, her words hollow pronouncements of a truth she no longer recognized. But the lie hung heavy in the air between them, a suffocating presence that threatened to extinguish the flickering embers of their love. The guilt gnawed at her, a relentless beast that refused to be silenced. She saw the pain in her husband's eyes, the trust she had so carelessly betrayed reflected in their depths. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. She was destroying not only her own life but also the life of the man she had vowed to love and cherish. Sleep offered no escape, her dreams haunted by visions of her betrayal. She would wake in a cold sweat, the echoes of her husband's heartbroken voice ringing in her ears. The walls of her carefully constructed reality were closing in, threatening to crush her under the weight of her deception. The truth, like a serpent lurking in the shadows, eventually revealed itself. A misplaced phone, an inadvertently forwarded email. The details hardly mattered, for the outcome was inevitable. Her husband, his face pale with the shock of discovery, confronted her with irrefutable evidence of her betrayal. The words when they came were like shards of glass, sharp and piercing. He spoke of trust shattered, of love betrayed, of a future ripped apart by her selfish actions. Each accusation was a searing indictment, a stark reminder of the depth of her transgression. She could offer no excuses, no justifications for her actions. The weight of her guilt was suffocating, a heavy cloak that threatened to drown her in remorse. She had destroyed everything precious, everything they had built together, on the altar of her own selfish desires. As she looked into her husband's eyes, she saw not anger, but a profound sadness that cut her to the core. It was the look of a man who had loved deeply and lost everything, a look that would forever be etched into the deepest recesses of her memory. The aftermath of the revelation was a blur of tears, recriminations, and the heart-wrenching process of dismantling a life once shared. Their home, once a sanctuary of love and laughter, became a battleground of shattered dreams and unspoken accusations. Each room held a memory, a poignant reminder of what they had lost. He moved out, his presence still lingering in the empty spaces he left behind. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of her betrayal and the love she had so carelessly discarded. She was surrounded by the ghosts of their shared past, each one a painful testament to her infidelity. Friends and family, once eager to celebrate their love, now found themselves caught in the crossfire of their fractured union. Sides were chosen, judgments were passed, and she found herself ostracized, alone in her guilt and shame. The world, once vibrant and full of promise, now appeared bleak and unforgiving. The colors seemed to fade, the laughter of children grating on her ears. She was adrift in a sea of remorse, the shores of redemption nowhere in sight. In the solitude of her heartbreak, she finally confronted the reflection in the mirror. Gone was the vibrant woman who had once radiated joy and confidence. In her place stood a stranger, her eyes dulled by guilt, her shoulders slumped under the weight of her actions. The journey towards atonement was long and arduous. It began with the difficult task of forgiving herself, of acknowledging her mistakes without allowing the guilt to consume her entirely. She sought therapy, pouring her heart out to a stranger, hoping to make sense of the chaos she had created. She immersed herself in her writing, using the written word as a cathartic outlet for her pain and remorse. Her stories, once filled with romantic notions of love and happily ever afters, now explored the complexities of relationships, the fragility of trust, and the devastating consequences of betrayal. Slowly, tentatively, she began to rebuild her life. She reconnected with neglected passions, rekindled old friendships, and found solace in the simple act of helping others. The road to redemption was paved with humility, self-reflection, and a newfound appreciation for the preciousness of forgiveness.